Hello, everyone, and welcome to this SAP Situation Report Q4 2019. On this really short video, we're going to talk about the results of the project ARSAP. It's something that we have been working here at the Vicxer Labs. Mainly, we wanted to know how secure the SAP systems that are directly exposed to the internet are. And most importantly, we're going to take this exact level of measures and compare it against the results that we're going to do in Q1 2020, 2021, etc. The idea is to be able to compare all the different SAP systems on the internet across time. Without further introduction, we continue. This is a disclaimer. No one reads it anyways, but it's very important to point out that we do not intend to override any rights that SAP might have towards their own brand. So, who are we? We are Vicxer. We are a company that focuses on the security of the ERP systems. We specialize mainly in SAP, but we also do Oracle Civil, e-business suite, financials, etc. All of our customers belong to the Fortune 500 group, and we normally do pen testing. I would say that is our star product. We specialize in SAP penetration testing, Oracle penetration testing. We do a lot of trainings for private institutions and also for different security conferences around the world. We also do vulnerability assessment and management. We help people or organizations that they might not have a strong level of proficiency in SAP, how they can deal with the vulnerabilities and how they can remediate those vulnerabilities in the shortest amount of time possible and saving as much budget as possible. And finally, we do a lot of forensics. We have been involved in the most notorious cases towards SAP intrusions. The agenda, what I have prepared for you today. We'll start with a really brief introduction about the project ARSAP. And also we're going to talk a little bit about the methodology that we took. We're going to see the global results on chapter 2, how the whole global SAP deployment looks like. And to make things easier, for chapter 3, we're going to split those results per continent. So if you want more detailed information regarding your area, chapter 3 will be ideal for you. And on chapter 4, we're going to throw away some conclusions and what you can expect for the next iteration of the project ARSAP. Introduction. Basically, as I said before, we wanted to understand how secure are the SAP systems that are directly exposed to the internet. We wanted to see through a veridic and technical study, how those systems look like. It is very important to clarify that the approach that we took here was passive, meaning that we didn't scan for the whole SAP systems on the internet, let's say with tools like Nmap, and then we started to try attack proofs on those systems. No, what we did was the other way around. We took all the data sources that we already had, you name it, from Google to some search engines like Shodan, also some resources on the deep web, especially some forums. We took all that information of people that were already scanning for SAP systems. We took that data, we analyzed that data, and we sent also some identification head requests to obtain information like the banners, the SAP versions, and so on. We never attack any of the systems that we recollected. So once we had the raw data, we need to make that data smart. So what we did is, in base of the headers, we obtained the SAP version and the SAP stack, and we start classifying that information. We wanted to know very different things. For example, we wanted to compare the version against our internal knowledge base to see if the SAP system was at risk. We wanted to analyze the information if the SAP system was using or not SSL. We wanted to read the SSL certificate to know who actually was behind the SAP system, who was the owner. I always make the same joke that an SAP is like a Rolls Royce. There is no such thing as an orphan Rolls Royce. Someone bought that very expensive car. Here is exactly the same. SAP is an expensive software, and therefore someone must be owning that software. And you want to see the results? Okay, global results. Currently, we were able to detect directly exposed to the internet more than 6,339 SAP systems, not services, systems. Each one of the detected systems might have one or many services. Now, there is another clarification that I would like to do here. We make our focus to be what is called SAP NetWeaver. That is the most important technology that SAP has nowadays. We didn't include, for example, the old SAP ITS or the SAP Business Objects. We are considering to do so on next releases of the project ARSAP. So how this distribution looks like? Well, this did not impress us at all, but more than half of the SAP systems that are out there are ABAP. This makes sense because we have seen in the market that SAP is slowly deprecating Java more and more. If I would have to make a prediction, in the near future, Java will go away and SAP will just stay with the UI5. 45% of the assets that we found were Java. This is a very important picture and a very powerful one. What you're looking at here, you're looking at the web application servers versions that we found and the amount of those web application servers that we found. This is not always 100% true, but there is a correlation between the version of the web application server and the core, the kernel that the SAP system is using. Again, there are a few exceptions, but more often than not, more or less you can determine what version of the SAP kernel the user is running by looking at the version of the web application server. Why I'm saying that this is a very powerful picture? Because there are plenty of people that are using deprecated versions of SAP. Look at the amount of people that are using 7.0, 7.01. Those are, if they're running those versions, it means that the security of their SAP systems might be downgraded. Why? Because the older version that you have, the more SAP security nodes you have to apply to be at the same level of more advanced SAP versions. This is what we hope to revert with awareness here. Ideally, we will start seeing more and more newer SAP systems, and ideally, we would like to see those 7.0, 7.01, 7.02 decrease the market share. That is the goal of every SAP security researcher out there, helping people to do better, to get better. Here, this is an important one. The global risk. Do you remember that I told you before that from the banners, for example, we were extracting the version of the SAP system, right? So we compare that version against our internal knowledge base to see what assets were potentially at risk. Why do I say potentially? Because of course, we didn't trigger any of the attacks uh, that we have in our knowledge base against our target SAP system. What we did was just comparing versions, but in base of our experience doing lots of pen tests, more often than not, by just looking at the version, you can tell if the assets is vulnerable or not. It doesn't apply to 100% of the attack proofs that we have, but for most of them, that will be true. What do I mean by imminent risk? To make it simple and fair, remote code execution, SQL injection, attacks that will allow an attacker to completely compromise the SAP system and do whatever they want under the privileges of the operating system user running the SAP system. This is especially dangerous because, as I said before, those assets are exposed to the internet. If you compromise an SAP system that is sitting on the DMC, the first thing that an attacker will try to do after compromising that asset is lateral movement. Try to move around the DMC and even jump into the internet network. Again, these statistics come directly from the SAP NetWeaver technology. These numbers do not apply to business objects nor ITS, etc. You might be wondering here, okay, but give me the payloads, give me the attacks. Well, no. What we're trying to do here is to raise awareness and make sure that people patch and make sure that people start asking themselves the question, hey, how the SAP system that I have on the internet looks like in comparison to these numbers. We're not here to give an exploit and in 2 weeks see that the exploit be exploited in the wild. Also, I told you that we did some fingerprinting in terms of figuring out who is the owner of the SAP systems that are on the internet. Sometimes it's really easy. You just have to look at the domain name of that asset and that's it. Some other times you just have to look at the metadata of the SSL certificates. But some other times the situation is a little bit more complex. Remember, here the objective is to not throw active proofs against the SAP assets that we're looking at. Without doing so, figuring out who is the company or the individual behind the SAP system might be a little bit tricky. And here's a very important clarification. Do you want to know if the SAP systems that you have exposed to the internet were captured as part of the project ARSAP? If you were detected, you can go to https://vicxer.com/research/situation.html. Completely free of charge, you can claim a domain. For example, you can say, hey, I work for acme.com. I want to know if the project or if my asset make it to the list, to the project ARSAP, and I want to know if you guys believe that my asset is on imminent danger. You can do that 100% free of charge, no strings attached. Again, this is our compromise and the willingness to give back to the community. Again, we want to help. Continental results. How these results map to your region. This is the distribution of SAP systems per continent. Americas is leading, For the biggest part is because of the US. The US has a gigantic number of SAP systems exposed to the internet. Very, very close, followed by Asia, then Europe, Africa, and Oceania. Who is the country with the highest amount of SAP systems? Well, by far, as you can see here, the United States. By far. That's why the Americas contain the biggest number of SAP systems out there. Second, and I don't think this is a surprise, is followed by India. India has a massive amount of SAP systems exposed out there, and unfortunately is one of the countries with the lowest SAP system versions running out there. Then is followed by Germany, China, and Turkey. Also, we got curious about the distribution. Okay, in terms of the stacks per continent, how is the distribution looks like? The Americas, the ABAP sums up for the 58% of the security of the SAP systems out there. Meanwhile, Java is 42%. This is exactly what we expect to see. Again, we see that the market is slowly sunsetting, and SAP is slowly sunsetting Java in favor of more ABAP-like solutions. So this is a true reflection of the market. Same for Asia. As you can see, the distribution is almost the same. Same for Europe and for all the rest of the continents. The proportion might vary a little bit. For example, you can see the case of Africa, but that is just the market catching up. The more we do this project ARSAP, I would say if you compare the results of today versus the results that we are going to get in like 5 years, you will see more and more ABAP eating the market share of Java. If we don't see that, it means that the SAP company has a change in the strategy or something really bad is going on. To wrap up, some conclusions. It is unfortunate, and we didn't expect this number to be so high, is that 1/3 of the detected internet-facing SAP systems were affected by serious vulnerabilities. It could either be remote command execution, SQL injection, to some other vulnerabilities, but the problem still remains. And I want to do a very important clarification here. Is this like 100% responsibility of SAP? Well, no, you cannot blame them here. I mean, SAP is a software is developed by people commit mistakes, but as long as they release security patches for those mistakes, they are doing their job. What is important here is that organizations must polish their patching strategy. We need to create a procedure where the second Tuesday of each month, when SAP releases the security node, we make sure that at least the most critical vulnerabilities get patched. And also, if you know that you're running a very old version of an SAP kernel, consider the migration. I know that it's not as easy as it sounds. I know that migrating from one SAP system to another might be a whole project and it costs a lot of money. But as everything is life, you have to put everything in the balance and measure the pros and the cons. Second, our team could not find any evidence that expensive solutions like IDS, IPS will have a meaningful impact on stopping and preventing SAP intrusions. Basically, what we're trying to say here is that if you have a regular WAF, if you have a regular firewall, chances are all the potential attack proofs that we have or the attackers have and can execute against the SAP systems will not get stopped. Why? Because most of those stuff will be signature based. And in general, the big vendors do not have signatures for SAP. Yes, you might be thinking right there, hey, but I can just filter the port and that's it. Well, no, it's not how it works. If you have a web application server out there, it means that you have valid customers consuming that web application server. You cannot just shut down close down the door because you will be disrupting the business itself. We didn't test specialized SAP solutions. We hope to do that on the next exercise. For example, a full test on the web dispatcher. And as I say before, the main critical factor here, the main problem here is the amount of time that customers take to either upgrade to a modern SAP version or actually apply the patches. I know that also everyone is afraid of disrupting things by applying patches. It's something that I always get when I visit my customers. I know that no one wants to be that person responsible for applying a patch and disrupting the SAP system, especially on December. That's why I say this is not just a technical issue, it's a political issue. Ideally, the SAP basis with the IT security team will have a political safeguard, like the entire organization pushing both teams to work together and allow them to do their job on applying security and doing the upgrades. All the different parts, like the technical segments and the business, must work together to create a procedure. I'm not telling you you should apply every single SAP nodes out there, but as SAP already makes you the favor of categorizing the most critical ones, at least your aim for the first iteration of your patching program should try to cover those ones. This is something that unfortunately didn't call our attention. At some extension, we were expecting it a little bit, for sure in a more reduced way than we detected here, but we detected that people don't just expose the productive SAP systems, they do it as well for development and quality assurance. And this is also a problem. Why? It should not be like this, but in general, the security policy applied to development and the security policy that people tend to apply to quality assurance is lower to the security policy and the configurations applied to production. And also remember that SAP has been born to be interconnected. Dev will have our RFC destination to QA, and QA will have one RFC destination to production, one or many. If an attacker is able to compromise the development system directly from the internet, well, chances are that the lateral movement will start right away. So first of all, you need to make yourself the question of, do I need this to be exposed to the internet? If the answer is yes, why it has to be directly exposed to the internet? Why you cannot just make your users connect through a VPN? Why the users cannot just use a Citrix environment? What you can do, if I had to suggest one follow-up action right now, if you are, for example, on the IT security team, the best recommendation that I can do for you is know your assets. It sounds very simple, right? But more often than not, The IT security team do not know how many SAP systems they own or the company owns. They don't know how many application servers those SAP systems are utilizing. So if you don't know the assets that you have, you will never be able to secure them. So the first step that you need to take action, know your assets. Sit together with the SAP security team, start talking, make some new relationships, and make sure you walk out that room with a complete list of how many SAP systems do you have and which ones are exposed to the internet. Of course, we mentioned this before, patching. Don't just end this to be a conversation. Make actionable items. Okay, we need to patch. We need to get the ball rolling. Who is going to be the person with name and last name to get the ball rolling? What activities you expect from that person? What is the outcome? Once that person finishes his or her job, who is going to take the ball and start working? We cannot stress this enough. A lot, especially on ABAP, a lot of the SAP security audit trails are not enabled by default. You definitely want to check it out if you have those logs enabled. Because if something goes wrong, you will have very little to no information to apply forensics and figure it out what happened there. If you are unsure from where to start, you will see at the end of this page, there is a video on YouTube, one of my presentations that I talk about this topic a lot, or you can just go to Vicxer.com, go to the video section and get to see more about this problematic. And finally, before investing on very expensive security products, especially in SAP security products, I would suggest you to do a quick SAP pen test. Why? Because you need to make sure that you are ready for the next level. This is basically a Maslow pyramid of SAP security. Make sure you cover the bare minimum. Make sure that you can tackle the long-hanging fruit, and then you can evolve alongside the security level of your SAP implementation. Do not try to tackle everything on one single step because SAP is huge, and more often than not, organizations struggle to tackle everything on one single slice. If you believe it, that we will only leave homework for you, you were wrong. As you guys, IT security engineers, SAP security guys, have some homework to do, we, security researchers, have some homework too. We have the obligation to do what we are doing right now, reporting the reality with numbers, with research supporting the statements that we do. We should present that with integrity, consolidated knowledge, and empathy. It's very easy to say you need to patch and you need to upgrade as soon as possible without considering the business. The reality is that SAP exists because of the business. And the reality is that most likely your SAP basis administration team will be literally swamped on 1,000 daily tasks that they need to resolve. So we should make this game more collaborative. We should always help put the best of ourselves to reach the main goal, which is making SAP more secure. Definitely, and this is something that we need to do way more, is to contribute to more open initiatives like local meetups, technical gathering, conferences, etc., by presenting novel, unbiased, and relevant technical knowledge. Here at Vicxer, we do that a lot. We go around all the leading security conference out there, and we add our little bit of knowledge in SAP. It is very important for people to retweet and people to talk about the topics that are already out there on SAP, but I encourage you to do more. I encourage you to start doing some novel research. I encourage you to start looking at other things that no one else did. The more we are, the more we take care of the software that is running the world, the more secure and the better we're going to be. And finally, as a security researchers, we need to take a unifying role in the organization. More often than not, we are described as unicorns. Why? Because from one side, we have the knowledge of IT security, and from the other side, we have the knowledge of how SAP works. Believe me, that is a very uncommon profile. So if you're lucky enough to have those skills, you will have to be the middle woman or the middle man. You will have to be the unifying person, the one unbiased resource that will help to close the gap, that will help to make a true Venn diagram. Okay, thank you so much for assisting this short presentation. If you have questions, you can either go to our website, you can check our Twitter at Vicxer Security, or you can send me a personal message via Twitter at jsantarcieri. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thank you.